dialogic session.
Husband, but today I left them.
I should first say that Johanna Skibsrud and I have never met. We've never even talked on the phone before. So this is very much in the vein of the Danish philosopher, theologian, Søren Kierkegaard, and his notion of a leap of faith. Today we're taking a leap of faith. And I would like to thank Ms Skibsrud for taking that leap. Our dialogue began by email overseas, and she's heading to the airport from here, so we'll want to make every moment count. While faith is blind, dialogue is not. You know Ms Skibsrud by virtue of her writings, including The Sentimentalists. If you don't have a copy yet, there are copies that I have ordered that are at Paragraph Bookstore, the softbound copies. So that she knows who she's dialoguing with, we'll invite each of you just to say who you are and what you do briefly. And maybe we begin.
Sure. I am Karen Kotterovic, and I'm a musician and cellist as well as a writer.
I'm Nadia Haywood. I'm a painter. I'm a nurse, retired nurse, and now I paint.
In the dialogues we have pseudonyms, so it is related to the idea of ghosts, and so my pseudonym name is Turbulence, and I'm a poet.
And she is a good poet. I was writing her stories, her thinking. I am Carmen Dorar. I am an artist, and I am a poet also. From Romania.
Good morning, I'm Maureen Lafreniere. I'm involved in government, municipal government, to do with environment, culture, and communications.
My name for the last seminar series was Storytime, so now my ghost name is Ghost of Storytime. I got a previous life working up to a master's degree in particle physics. And then I kind of took a leap of faith as well, and now I'm just delving in most things artistic. I do lots of writing, I play the ukulele and guitar, and yeah, that kind of thing.
I'm Kevin, and I'm a consultant for large philanthropic organizations, and I have a degree in philosophy, and I like the intellectual stimulation of these seminars. And my ghost name is Toledo, which is where I'm from.
My name is Slavek, and this seminar, my name is the Flying Head, yeah? And I'm engineer, so very square hair, but I like it. So, and I'm from Poland, yeah, originally.
Well, to explain our modus operandi, how we approached your writing, the seminar members, the only thing they knew is that the seminar was on the writing of Johanna Skibsrud. They were never told the book, because you published other books. The Sentimentalists never came up till halfway through the seminar. We actually meet back here Mondays from 6 to 8 in the evening, and Saturdays from 12 to 2 in the afternoon. We do blind readings, and we mean that literally. Everybody brings earplugs and everybody brings blindfolds, and I can assure you at 8 o'clock in the evening back here on a Monday, it's very, very dark, and I will actually sometimes read a passage. They didn't know it was from the Sentimentalists, and they would write in a stream of consciousness vein their experience. Other times they'll receive a passage not knowing it was the Sentimentalist. I would select various passages throughout the Sentimentalist, photocopy them, then cut them out, then make them into a piece of paper which they would read, and will, as a catalyst for our dialogue, Ms Skibsrud, with your permission, we'll read some of those passages, and then I'll share with you how they experienced your writing and the way we went through it. perhaps we could start with now, though I find it difficult to believe. Let's see, that is on page, which is that? And incidentally, they receive these handouts not according to the pagination. So let me locate. I find it difficult to believe. Okay, I have that place marked down.
I feel like I should know that.
I have a copy here.
Okay. Oh, you have the copy of the handout?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So this is from her book. So if you would read that, then.
Sure. And also just thank you for inviting me. I'm really pleased to meet you all, and I'm interested to hear more about what you do. It's really interesting. And also, please feel free to call me Johanna.
Okay.
Now, though I find it difficult to believe that anything is ever buried in the way that I had once supposed, I believe that's interesting. It's so interesting to see it come out like that, because I just read it completely wrong. Now, though, I find it difficult to believe that anything is ever buried in the way that I had once supposed. I believe instead that everything remains, at the very limit, the exact surface of things, so that in the end it is not so much what has been subtracted from a life that really matters, but the distances instead between the things which remain.
So they all have this handout, and I asked them, and they're wearing earplugs, because we essentially contemplate literature as a spiritual exercise, since I did my PhD in religious studies. And I asked them, once they have their earplugs in, I hand them the piece of paper, and I ask them to read it once straight through and to write the first word that comes to mind about the passage that they have in front of them. Well, here's what one of the seminar members wrote: gaps. That was the first word that came to mind. Then I asked them to read it a second time, straight through, and to write one sentence about the passage. And here's what this seminar member wrote: how we deal with the gaps in a personal timeline brings to fruition so much living by slippery fiction. The what and who, where and when, scrabbling comedy and tragedy alike. The loss of precise memory in spots adding up to a fragmented kind of legend of being in the world. And then I asked him to read it a third time straight through and to write one paragraph about it. And here's what they wrote. The exact surface of things, which is from the passage. How can that be? There is something almost mystical being suggested here. My idea of what remains is more akin to splayed fragments, as opposed to any exact surface of things. Fragments that offer ideation of events in a life, sometimes vaguely, sometimes clearly. I'd be the first to agree that what has been subtracted from a life is less important, ultimately, than those difficult distances between the things which remain. Just not sure of what the author intends here when she speaks of distances, i.e., is it about how said distances affect, or maybe how they confuse? I would love to be privy to the exact surface of things. But I find that that is not part of my reality. The lived comes and goes, not always in a way that I can recognize. Fused, rather, through everything. Often enough, devoid of the kind of intentionality that would have me recognizing as opposed to making up Socratic days in a life. So just invite you to riff on that, and we're going to open it up for questions.
Sure, that's really interesting. I think that really what the writer is exploring is exactly what I intended to explore there, just the just in opening it up to this idea of gaps, really, where this writer began as well, as the idea of that disruption of the surface. And I think that that for me was so much a part of my thinking about her, the ideas that I think propel the Sentimentalists is that idea of not rupture, not like an rupture of the surface, but of the incredible complexity that makes up the surface. So that I really liked that the idea about everything dispersing, because I feel like that was very much like the idea, and the story began for me while I was canoeing on a lake, which, like the lake in the made-up town of Casablanca, or the lake. There's a buried town underneath, a submerged town underneath, and the long sticks that stick out in the water mark the foundations that are below. And I just had this moment of recognition, basically, of the fact that that surface that I was traveling along at that time was formed by everything that was below. And so all of those foundations, all of that past, all of that invisibility, basically, that I wasn't able to be conscious of, was a part of what I was experiencing at the exact surface of things. So I think that, that notion of what's at the exact surface is not necessarily for me a notion of any finishedness or any sort of concretization, but just sort of the limit of not consciousness, but what you're aware of as being your consciousness, but that necessarily contains so much more, so much that exceeds that, so much that it has been that forms that is necessarily invisible, but it's also formative and constitutive of the present, and of that surface of any moment that you are able to experience or articulate as experience or something.
When you use the word exact, are you implying a moment of clarity?
In this particular section,
I guess my question would be, do we have moments of clarity?
Yeah, I think that we do. I mean, basically, I'm just wondering if I mean that at that. See, I don't think that in this section. I really do think that I just mean in terms of the experienceable moment that we imagine as the present, and that how much more that contains, and how much. How much our experience actually exceeds that exactness, basically. So I guess exact is it could be argued that I also mean inexact, because it's something that I don't think is, that I think that I'm using exact to hopefully point to what isn't contained by that exactness, or that's the thread I feel like that pulls through the novel. But moments of clarity, I think yes, like in terms of just in the idea that came to me when I was on the lake, for example. Like I was actually just writing a little article for it's a collection of